Okay, we have a green box, we have a live counter ticking up, so we should now be live, which of course means welcome back to the Storytime network. Continuing on Pride Month, decided, since Fuzzy, you are joining me today, we're not going to play, as much as I was enjoying that on Sunday. Instead, we're going to play some Hollow Knight, which is also, like, Pride-themed, sort of.
That gay bug.
Gay bugs, agenda bugs, good enough for me. I'm gonna warn people now, I'm gonna be terrible at this game.
So, like, I have a question that I don't know if I should ask.
Hmm? When has that ever stopped you before?
Have you looked at the, artwork of the fan variety for this game?
Not really.
Neither have I.
My
But what
experience
do you...
my experience with this game is watching Kaizeneko play it.
What do you want to bet that people are really into artwork of the older sister of the main character?
I'm not making that bet because we both know that the internet is what it is.
But, like, okay. Here's an interesting thing, and I think, honestly, this is a subject that a lot of people were awakened to by Hunter x Hunter. There's, like, the furries and the scalies, but, like, I think the insect-adjacent ones are where I draw the line.
I don't necessarily blame you.
Like, I know there's people who are into that sort of thing. I think, like, you know me, I have a very high tolerance for this sort of nonsense, but, like, I think insects is where I bow out.
I mean, my general take on a lot of this stuff is as long as it is consensual and you aren't hurting anybody, go fucking wild. I don't care. You don't get to tell me what I do with my life. I don't get to tell you what you do with your life.
No, but I just mean on, like, a personal level.
Oh, yeah.
I think
Okay, this is a little weird.
What?
The insects thing.
Yes, okay, yeah, no, because, like, yeah, I don't care if other people are into it, but on a personal level, like, okay, let's talk about something a bit more simple. You know what one thing I've never been... I'm not doing this from a place of kink shaming, because I don't, like, care, right? Like, you do you. I don't get the feet thing.
No, neither do I.
Just, like, what is the appeal there? It's very confusing to me. I just, like, that's a very, like... But, this actually leads into a larger question of what is and is not arbitrary when it comes to fetishes and interests. And that makes me wonder that if there's, like, an evolutionary basis for some of this stuff. The reason I say that is that a lot of other, like, preferences and attractions have an evolutionary basis. Right?
Mm.
So, I'm wondering, is there an evolutionary basis for being into feet?
I would struggle to see what that evolutionary basis would be.
Well, why don't we, like, go down the list and, like, see if we can, just spitball what the evolutionary basis might be. You start, Mel.
Okay, chuck that on me, why don't you?
Look, I can't always be the one spewing nonsense. Sometimes the ball has to be in your court.
Fair, but oh. Like I said, I... Oh. Oh. Feet.
Well, no. I mean, like, not, rather than that, just go towards another thing that people are attracted to. Just name a thing people are attracted to, and we can see if we can guess what the evolutionary basis for that is. You can make an easy one.
Armpits.
Okay, that's not necessarily an easy one.
I know, but that's just the one that came to my mind, because again, that's one I don't really get.
No, I don't either. In fact, that's one I get even less, because it's like... those things are not pleasant.
Hmm.
And granted, feet are not exactly pleasant as well, but like, I feel like...
I mean,
it's possible...
I think for some people that's sort of the point? I'm really not sure.
Is it maybe a pheromone thing? For some people?
Maybe? I mean, maybe there's also an element of,
Nato.
how do I want to say this? Like the kink is more dirtiness than it is the actual body part?
You say that, but like... I feel like a lot of people do focus on making sure there's like... the area in question is clean before any sort of anything goes on.
I suppose. Like, I'm not saying that's the entire basis for it, but for some people it might be.
That's true. I don't really get what the evolutionary basis might be, but it is interesting to... like, that does seem like a viable...
I mean, to be
basis.
fair, there is, you know, an evolutionary basis for, you know, people being dirty. Like, it helps our immune systems develop.
You know, that's actually a very good point. Do you know what the most difficult part of this conversation is?
Yeah.
It's something that you have to speculate on, because I'm pretty sure even the people with these fetishes in question don't actually know the deeper reason. Because it's, like, not really something people think about, right? Like,
Yeah.
people never, like, wonder why they feel the... like, I probably have a better understanding of this sort of thing because I spent 2 years undergoing psychoanalysis with a man who looked very similar to Sigmund Freud. That's not a joke. He legit looked... he had the same vibe. The psychoanalysis at this point is like... it's not really a Freudian thing where everything you do means you wanna bang people. It's more about, like... I think the reason people still hold Freud in high regard is not necessarily because of his theories, but because of the introspective techniques that he came up with.
Yeah.
It's like someone who... Freud is like a dude who invented a washing machine and thought the only way to use it was to mix liquids together.
Yeah.
Right? He, like... his technical prowess was not in question. The problem was what he used it for. Yeah, no, I think about these. I've been trained to sort of be more introspective about these things, but I don't think most people do that unless they also have the training, because it's not something that comes naturally to people.
I mean, it's not something that I think about on a particularly regular basis. Or really at all, unless I'm talking to you.
Well, that's the point of these streams.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. But no, so, like, let me give you an example of a much easier one. An actually easy one. Butts. Why are people into butts?
Human curiosity.
No, I was... Okay. We should also make a distinction between butts and butt stuff.
Right, okay.
There is a difference there. I'm talking about the attraction to butts rather than the butt stuff.
Oh, it'll be something to do with, like, a bigger ear indicates a bigger pelvis and more likely to survive childbirth or something like that?
Yes, but that is the case for boys who are into girls. Now, what do you think that translates? Like, why do you think that also exists in, like, every other orientation?
I don't know.
Yeah, but the point is, you just, like, throw out crazy guesses and maybe one of them will accidentally be right.
I mean... For gay men, I guess maybe, like... The bigger the ass, the better they can take it up there? I don't know.
I'm glad I got you to at least say it.
I don't fucking
Anyway,
know, man.
Look, that's the point. In other news, I've been like, as you know, I've been refining my tastes a great deal over the years, and as a result, I have realized that while I have a very, very low tolerance for some tropes, there are actually other tropes that I can ignore, and I'd like to take you on a journey to analyze this range of preferences.
Alright.
So as I've said, a lot of the tropes that I just can't tolerate at all are like the super heavy stuff, the dark stuff, and like a lot of the relationship stuff.
Yeah.
But you know what I've found is that, and this is especially relevant because I read a lot of Chinese web novels. I have found that my standards are different for different forms of media.
Right.
Like, for example, and I think I know why. In a lot of Western media, if the protagonist or, like, supposedly sympathetic characters are, like, highly nationalistic, that's an immediate turnoff for me, because obviously,
Yeah.
I mean, that's part of my problem with the Wheel of Time. Among other things, one of the biggest issues in the Wheel of Time is that every single character, regardless of whether they're a protagonist or an antagonist, is ultra-nationalistic. And at no point is it considered a bad thing or a good thing. It's sort of just taken for granted. And while I understand that that's like... I think a lot of my gripes in these regards come from how I see the author and their situation. Like, I think I've realized that a lot of my tastes also come down to looking at it from a Doylean perspective as opposed to the Watsonian perspective. Because, like, in the Wheel of Time, the author really should have known better.
Yeah.
And had the option to know better.
Yeah.
But I found that when I'm reading, like, Chinese web novels, I have a much, like, higher tolerance for ultranationalism, because if they don't do it, there's a decent chance the CCP will pay them a little visit.
Right.
It's like there's a... Oh, one moment.
What I always struggle with in these games is knowing where the fuck I'm supposed to go. Like, I found some stuff that I am, like, 99% certain I should not be dealing with right now. And I don't want to deal with until, at the very least, I get a dash. I need me a dash.
Yeah, that's like the classic Metroidvania problem. Is like Metroidvanias are inherently. Also, sorry I had to leave. Someone knocked on the door and I got scared.
It's fine.
But yeah, my dog is not
mean,
having any of it.
It's fine. I mean, what you were saying is, it's sort of like the basics of analysis, isn't it? Like, it's, you've got to think about the reason why certain things are in these books, you know. And, you know, to be fair, more often than not, it is just that, hey, the author likes this if it's portrayed positively, or doesn't like this if it's portrayed negatively.
Yeah, but that's the thing, is like a lot of people just don't think about the context in that regard, right?
But people don't have basic analytical skills for their media or for their media in general.
Yeah, so for example, one of the stories I've been reading is called The Great Genetic Era. It's a Chinese web novel, and it features... It's very interesting in that it's near future. So, like, I believe the story starts in, like, 2137.
Right.
And, like, the basis is that there was a first alien contact in, like, 2030 or so. And they sort of, like, just extrapolate a future from there. And in a very realistic... like, the way it presents politics is actually very realistic, because it shows that while on the surface, when dealing with alien invasions, it's large... Like, humanity has consolidated into, like, 6 sectors. Or 6 or 7 sectors, depending on who you ask.
Yeah.
It's like the European sector, the American sector, and things like that. But because of the nature of, like, the alien invasions, they will put up a united front in times of war, but, like, the moment it's peacetime, it's constant internal strife. which is, I think, a very realistic depiction of like human politics, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is, the protag is Chinese because it's a Chinese web novel,
Right.
and there's a lot of Chinese nationalism, and also the bad guys on Earth are the Indian subcontinent.
Right.
And there's just a lot of casual racism there. But the thing is, you have to remember, the author doesn't necessarily have a choice in the matter because of his choice of the setting, which is not inherently wrong, right? Like, you can't just say that, well, if I don't have a choice in the matter, I just can't write near future settings anymore. That's just not how it works, right?
Yeah.
But, like, yeah, to a certain extent, I believe a lot of the racism parts are probably just ingrained in this subconscious and due to the context of where he lives, but I think a lot of the nationalism stuff is kind of obligatory based on who the author is and where he's writing from.
Yeah.
So I found that I have a certain degree of tolerance for that stuff. It's a very good book if you can ignore that, right? It's like... And that's the thing I see very often is... double standards are not a good thing. But double standards and contextualized standards are different things. And I think that's a distinction that a lot of people just don't want to think about.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a pretty good. Also, one of the reasons I like it in particular is because it's not an isekai. Because, like, I don't understand why, but basically 90% of Chinese battle shonen is isekai or transmigration. It's like, for some reason, even when it's like the context is near future or urban fantasy, it's isekai or transmigration, and I don't understand that, but it's a thing.
I mean, very possibly it's a case of, they don't like where they are and would rather than write, would like that, sort of power fantasy of, yeah, I'm not gonna fight you. Like that power fantasy of being in a different place and being able to, write themselves as a hero in a different place, knowing that they, can't necessarily do something about their home country.
I'd never actually thought of it that way, but I feel like for some people, like, here's the thing. I have to imagine that for some of the OGs, that's probably similar to where they're coming from, but you do have to remember, for a lot of people, it's just bandwagoning.
Oh, yeah. I'm not going to say that's every single one of them, but...
Yeah, you're right. I'd never thought of it that way, but I think... the roots... I feel like the roots could be from somewhere in that direction. Now that I think about it, yeah. It may have come from a place of just wanting to be somewhere else. And I think, it's funny. Let me run a statistic by you real quick. In the isekais that I've read, in the majority of the, full-on transportation fantasies,
yeah,
it does seem like, in Japanese and Korean media, the goal is often to go home.
Hmm.
Whereas in Chinese and Western media, to a certain extent, they kind of just want to stay. Because, like, I just finished reading a pretty interesting book that did not stick the landing, that is a Korean fantasy called The Novels Extra, in which, and this is something I feel like is relatable to us in particular, the main character is a failing web novel author who had a very popular novel to start with, but then underwent burnout and kind of just lost the plot.
Right.
And he gets transported into the world of his own book as a side character, or not even a side character, just as a background extra. And then shenanigans ensue, because of course they do.
Yeah.
And a lot of that, there is a pretty big chunk of that book that is him agonizing over whether he wants to stay or go back home. And that's not something that happens in a lot of most Chinese web novels, and a lot of Western fantasy, portal fantasy as well. And I have to wonder, how much of that is just how much they want to go, the author would want to go home, right?
Yeah. I mean, is there sort of a generational thing there? Because I know, sort of the famous,
Mill, if you're saying something, you are cutting out completely. I cannot hear you.
Oh.
Yes, what were you saying?
Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, I wonder, is that a generational thing? Because I know, obviously, the famous sort of portal fantasies, like Alice in Wonderland, Wizard of Oz sort of thing. Like, the protagonist wants to go home, I'm fairly sure.
Yeah, there's definitely a generational element to it, but yeah, I think.
I've not really read sort of modern portal fiction, so I don't know if that's the case.
Yeah, I will say it's definitely trended towards not wanting to go home as they've gone on. And I think that's sort of a reflection of how, as the generations move on, from the older generations to our generation and beyond, it's just because of the ever prevalent social isolation, the fantasy of being transported to another world where you have close friends and a found family is just very appealing.
Yeah.
And so you just don't want to leave at that point.
I mean, we talked about it with the Chinese ones, and well, obviously there's an element of extent, for example, a queer kid or queer young adult who wasn't accepted by their family, or has had to endure a lot of bigotry. I wouldn't blame them for writing that sort of fantasy of going to a world where they were accepted and deciding, no, fuck that, I'm gonna stay here.
Yeah, and I think that just gets more and more prevalent as you go on. And it's funny you bring up queer people in the context of China. Because there's a pretty like high number of yaoi stories coming out of China.
Hmm.
It's very interesting because the quantity of yaoi from China is like far greater than the quantity of yuri.
Hmm.
And I wonder if some of that is like historical precedent. Because China has a pretty long history, obviously, but
Obviously, yeah.
for, mo- for
Um,
most of that history, I mean, even up to the modern day, though that's getting a bit spicy.
mhm.
Women weren't exactly treated
Bafunada.
as, people.
I mean, yeah. I mean, that's sort of what I was thinking. Is it because of the more patriarchal nature of China?
Yes, right, and especially because there were plenty of emperors who had male lovers, right?
Mm-hmm.
In ancient China, and also, you know what it reminds me of? The Hellenistic antiquity,
Hmm.
where a lot of the time, uh, dudes would marry women for the purposes of status and reproduction, and they would bang dudes for love,
Yeah.
right? It's like there is a certain level of historical precedent for it, and I do wonder. That kind of gets into the whole question of. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of erasure at play because historians seem to. There's an entire subreddit for it, Well, there was. I don't know if it exists anymore, considering, Reddit.
Yeah.
But, of historians kind of have a nasty little habit of queer erasure.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but they were roommates who, were buried in the same grave and lived together for their entire lives.
I'm not gonna excuse historians. They can be fucking shitty.
No, I know. That's why I wouldn't
Yeah.
have made the jokes otherwise. But yeah, it's just one of those things where there's so much more yaoi coming out of China than yuri.
Hmm.
But there is still a pretty sizable quantity of yuri as well, and I think I understand the reason. And it comes down to because as we know, I'm pretty sure the CCP is a pretty anti-homosexuality dictatorship.
Yeah.
And I think do you remember, I forget who it was, posted in our super secret Discord server a page of a manga. I don't know what it was, but it's a very definitely heartbreaking, where protagonist was like, what if a girl confessed to protagonist girl was like, what if a girl confessed to me in real life? And then her friend was like, yuri is only something that happens in stories. Do you remember that?
Not especially.
I mean, I mean, you're playing the game right now,
No,
but
it's
yeah,
fine. It's fine. Hollow Knight is luckily one of those that will
you can
actually.
follow.
Yeah. I mean, I was just looking up where I'm gonna get the dodge. So.
Yeah, let me find that. I believe it was in manga light novel spoilers, or was it manga light novel?
So I think. Do I have to go all the way down?
No, it was in manga and light novels, not the spoilers.
Right.
Oh. No, it wasn't spoilers, yeah. just need to scroll up a bit further. Yes, I found it, yeah. It was Eagle on June 12th.
Let me just pause that now. So which one did you say?
Mongolite novel spoilers on
June 12th.
June 12th, yeah. By Eagle.
Yeah. Sorry, I've now forgotten what your point was. Sorry.
Well, you saw the pages, right?
Yeah.
So my point is that it might be like the governmental approach to it. Again, I'm just making wild, baseless assumptions here because we're streamers who don't have any actual professional training. The wild, baseless assumption is that they allow a certain amount of yaoi and yuri from that perspective of, oh, it's just a fantasy thing that we will allow you to have fantasies of, just as long as you don't try and bring it into the real world.
Yeah.
It also, those stories tend to portray society and the government as more accepting of that than they are in real life. Right? So, I wonder if, like, if we're going to full insidious conspiracy theory territory, maybe it might even be a sort of lulling people into a false sense of security sort of thing.
I mean, I honestly, it's possible, because, that's what governments need to do. I mean, they need to, control the media.
Yeah, I think they might have, like, and this is terrible news for the general public, but I think they may have figured out that the forbidden fruit principle exists for a reason.
Yeah.
So, rather than a blanket ban, they've decided to control it, like, control the output and input instead. So yeah, it's like there are Yuri stories. I've read a Yuri story about a Yuri author in China. Right? So it's like, you see some things. Yeah, I guess the reason I think I'm talking so much about the Chinese web novels is because I do find it genuinely fascinating, because there's some legitimately good stories there.
Yeah.
There's 4. Sadly, that is not an exaggeration. I have read a grand total of 4 Chinese web novels that are good stories, independent of the fact that they're Chinese web novels.
Yeah.
I've read a lot of Chinese web novels that are good for what they are, but there's only 4 that are, I think, good on their own. You know what the worst part is? They have full Japanese light novel naming sense. So half of that list have awful, awful names that make them seem much worse than they are.
Yeah.
So the ones with decent names are the aforementioned The Great Genetic Era, and of course Lord of the Mysteries, which is kind of the gold standard
Yeah.
for Chinese web novels. And I'd recommend at least Lord of the Mysteries to you, because Lord of the Mysteries is extremely... It's Bloodborne. It's Cradle meets Bloodborne.
Okay.
That's that story.
Mm-hmm.
It's great, and it's the sequel is currently in publication. Though I'm scared to read it because I don't want it to taint what I already enjoyed about Lord of the Mysteries. But yeah, it's it's a very good story, and it has a pretty decent name, so that's good.
Yeah.
Then there's the Great Genetic Era, the aforementioned. I think you know what? I think honestly I should probably count that not as good on its own, because there's just too much of the nationalistic stuff.
Yeah.
So I'll not count that. So yeah. So that means 2 out of 3 of the good stories have terrible names. The other 2 are I Am Loaded with Passive Skills, in which it's a very difficult story to talk about, because it has the whole isekai protagonist has a cheat ability thing that will be a turnoff for a lot of people. But then you realize that that's kind of like, first of all, the story has solid writing and it's very good humor, good event composition, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And a solid emotional core. Also, the author does sort of address the issue of the protagonist having cheat abilities by having... the author solves that problem by simply having the protag consistently be forced to fight people far above his weight class.
Yeah.
So the cheat abilities make him invincible in the same level, but my man's is fighting overlords and archlords when he's an iron or jade. Right? That's his whole thing. So he very rarely actually is able to brute force his way out of situations. He has to be a tricksy little gremlin.
Lyndon at the start of Unsold.
Yes, no, exactly. He is... The entire series is mostly him fighting people way above his weight class, but just being more brazen and sort of refuge in audacity than them. So he kind of just... a lot of the time, how he gets away with things is by doing things that no one in their right mind would do, and as a result, his opponents don't suspect him, because they're well, why in the world would anyone do that? You know what I'm saying?
Again, it's sounding very much like Lyndon.
Yes, no, that's why I like it so much, because he's probably the most Lyndon-like protagonist I've seen thus far. To a certain
extent, Harvey.
Yeah, there's an element of that. Granted, that doesn't mean he's not powerful in his own right. He does again, like Lyndon, he does eventually get to the point where he can just beat up people. But again, he's not anywhere near the peak of the
power scale.
Power scale yet. But he can definitely punch above his weight class now. It's a very good series, right? And it's also avoids the whole element of every female character just falls in love with him, and it's just which is depressingly common in I mean just isekai in novels in general in the modern era, right? It's not even just a it's not like that. There's And I think one of the more interesting things is that the characters are just fun outside of the main character. Like, they have characters. They're not particularly, like, some of them are not particularly three-dimensional, but, like, they're not necessarily one-dimensional either. So, you know, it's like, that's something. But yeah, it's just it's a story that reminds me of the best bits of, like, Cradle and Codex Alera and things like that. So it's definitely one of the better ones in that regard.
Mm.
The other one, which again has a very stupid name, is The Master of Martial Arts Has an Advanced Optical Brain.
I know why these stories have the names they have, like, but it doesn't make them any less dumb to me.
No, that's the correct opinion. But yeah, that one, again, that one I like because it's not an isekai at all.
Yeah.
And the protagonist's cheat is also very Linden-like in that he essentially gets a dross without the personality, and that's his cheat. And that happens due to an accident in a healing pod.
Okay.
Where basically something goes wrong with his brain, so it takes place in the far future. This is like a very sci-fantasy thing.
Yeah.
And so the hyper-advanced AI modifies his human brain to be more similar to itself.
Right.
To fix it.
Oh, more similar to the AI. Okay.
To the AI, yeah.
I was getting confused. It's like more similar to his own brain.
Yeah, no, yeah. Basically the AI. There's basically a malfunction in the healing pod, where he's supposed to be treated for broken bones, but something goes wrong with his brain, and so the AI restructures his human brain to something more similar to a computer.
Yeah.
Hence, the Master of Martial Arts has an advanced optical brain. However, the reason I like that is because all that does is give him the ability to theorycraft and experiment. It doesn't do anything for him, so a lot of it is him literally breaking himself down from the inside out to find the optimal cultivation method.
Okay.
So it's like what it resembles most is when Linden's getting his blood-forged iron body.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, yes, he has the tools, but he still has to have, like, the perseverance and willpower to tolerate getting his entire insides melted and reforged. Yeah. Where it's the again, like that one line in Bloodlines where if other people got the same opportunities as him, they wouldn't necessarily be able to make it as far.
No.
Right? It's yeah, so the reason I like that character is essentially because he's got this cheat, right? Like, he has a brain that is essentially a supercomputer, but that doesn't, like, do anything for his pain tolerance or his willpower or perseverance. It just gives him raw data. Yeah. What he does with that data is still entirely on him.
Yeah.
And that's why it's, like, a step above the ones that are just like, oh, yes, it magically just gives me the optimal solution. And that's the thing, he doesn't actually, he has to use the scientific method. He doesn't actually get any solutions, he just gets data. So oftentimes, it's literally just him throwing stuff at the wall until he finds the one that does the best thing, and there's often literally thousands of experiments that he has to do. It also averts the whole harem protagonist, and he has a single love interest, and their relationship, get this, develops organically over the course of the series.
Wow, that's rare.
It's sad that that's true, how rare that is. So, yeah, basically, he and the love interest are both, like, equally talented and freakish. His love interest is also very non-standard because she's like she is character. Her character is that she was raised from birth by the series equivalent of monarchs.
Yeah.
Or like a monarch. She has like she's the only student of a monarch, and was raised from birth, and as a result has no common sense.
Right. I can.
But like not in a spoiled child way, more in a I just don't understand how society works sort of way.
Yeah.
And so she's like actually hilarious and also just genuinely is an equal to the protagonist. Like they are not, it's not a case of one carrying the other. They are like they consistently stay around the same power level.
Yeah.
Which is again also kind of rare.
I mean, yeah. I mean, Cradle, it took like what, $5-6 for Lyndon to reach Yaren's level, and then they kept sort of like.
Yeah, but after that, Lyndon kind of left her behind.
A little bit, yeah.
Because like even by the end of the series, he's stronger, like by a pretty significant amount. I mean, like, even by the end of the series, like, at the very last fight Lyndon has in the series is against that one Chaos Fiend, and it's a Class 2 Fiend. Class 1 Fiends are judge level, and that's one step below that. Oh, in an other news that is not fiction related, sadly.
Yes.
I have finally went to the computer store for fixing my computer.
Ah.
And it was in fact the worst case scenario. Because what I did is I took the RAM, because I've been saying like the RAM's defective, right? So I took the RAM into the shop to get it exchanged, because, you know, warranty. And then okay, so here's the thing. Initially, I checked the receipt the day before I took the RAM in. And I saw, oh, there's like a 3-year warranty at the bottom.
Right.
When I got to the shop and looked at the receipt again, I realized, oh no, the warranty is on a per item basis.
Right.
What I was looking at was the warranty for the CPU. I don't have warranty for the RAM.
Oh.
However, they checked the RAM and they were like, no, the RAM's fine.
Oh.
Which means it's the worst case scenario. It's the frickin' Mobo.
Oh, yeah, that is bad.
My motherboard is the thing that's... And I tested it when I got home, because, like, the RAM was in, like, the 1 and 3 slots.
Yeah.
So I tried putting it in the 2 and 4 slots in the motherboard. Turns out, the 1 and 3 slots are actually the better ones, because they at least work a little bit. The 2 and 4 slots, the computer just didn't turn on, because the RAM didn't work at all.
Oh.
So it is, in fact, a Mobo. However, in another piece of good news, I do have a warranty for the Mobo.
That's good, at least.
Yes, so I will be able to get that replaced. And it makes sense, right? Like, in hindsight, that I would get the warranty for the motherboard and not the RAM, because RAM is Not that expensive anymore.
Yeah.
Motherboards, on the other hand, are still significantly pricey. But and another bit of good news is that after seeing that we were talking about it, the tech guy was basically like, "Yeah, just bring your entire like desktop in, and we'll do a diagnostic for free." Normally, the diagnostic is like $50 to $150, so I'm getting that for free.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, so it wasn't entirely bad. But the idea is, now that I know that the problem is the motherboard and I can get it replaced and fixed, that means, and let's cross our fingers and hope for the best, I'll be able to stream. And not have my computer crash whenever I have more than one app open at the same time.
Yeah.
So that's gonna open up some opportunities for us across the board.
Right, I've unlocked this gate, but I don't know what I'm actually doing with it. Oh, it's a bell. Oh, I remember now. Hi, the last stag. Okay, so now I have an easy way back to this bench, which means I can face the first boss.
Good luck with that.
Well, considering I keep getting damaged by these flying things, I'm not doing very well. But yeah, it's good that you'll be able to stream at least.
Yeah, so we'll be able to do stuff in that regard. We'll be able to do co-op stuff as well. I might be able to set up a Parsec server at some point for...
Oh, that reminds me. I've had another thought of a game we could do using that.
Oh? Yes.
Do you remember a few years ago, TFS did a game using basically, or with like parody characters called, I think, Super Knockoff Versus?
Yes, I do remember that.
I have that game.
And is it like got online co-op or like online versus,
Well,
or
that's
is
the
it
thing.
couch co-op?
It's not online co-op.
But it's got local.
It's got local co-op, I'm fairly sure.
Ooh. Now that seems like something we could do.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Hell, you know what we can do? We can even like do playthroughs of entirely single-player games. You know what? Oh my god, it's the return of Jaeger controls. So, I need to give you some context for this.
Right.
One of the stupid things I did in high school that was actually like fun in hindsight
Yeah.
is Pacific Rim had come out, and the mechs in Pacific Rim were called Jaegers, and they required 2 people to control them, right?
Yep.
So, being the mad that I was in high school, with my friends that I actually had in high school, whenever they came over to my house, we would do a thing in which one person would use the left half of the controller and the other would use the right half of the controller. And we'd try and play through single-player games that way.
Okay. That seems fraught with danger.
It was amazing. We got like halfway through BioShock Infinite that way.
Right.
And you know what? It's even worse?
What?
For BioShock Infinite, one person was using the left analog stick, and the other would use the PlayStation Move on PS3.
Oh no.
The PlayStation Wiimote, as it were.
Oh no.
Oh, yes. So I'm thinking there's some room for shenanigans there.
Oh no.
In which we play through a single-player game that way.
I'm very scared of that.
And you know what? It's even better because, like, if we're playing on, since we'll be playing on PC, it could be that one of us uses the keyboard and the other uses the mouse.
Oh god, you'll be the one doing keyboard. Most of the time I hate keyboard.
That's fine with me. I can WASD with the best of them. And by the best of them, I mean, like, 3-year-olds, because my WASD level is about there.
I never liked games that forced me to use the WASD. I always preferred just using the arrow keys.
Oh my god. You know what we can do?
What?
We can play Ghostwire Tokyo.
Right.
Where I operate the movement and you operate the,
Oh god.
the shooting.
Alright. Get you. Oh! Well, he died.
Yeah, first bosses tend to do that.
Great, I won.
Have you seen the whole? Have you seen the thing where apparently a consumer submarine went missing on the way to the Titanic?
Yes. It's so very dumb. Everybody
Hey,
who went
there's-
on that is a dumbass.
There's so many things wrong with that. I don't even know. Look, let's not speak ill of the dead. Because, like, let's be real, they're probably all dead.
Oh, yeah.
But, like, I have so many questions. Like, why? Or how? Or just why? Like, what possible reason could you have to risk your life for that? Okay, you know what? What's worse? Oh no.
Oh, no?
I heard a Discord. Oh, okay, never mind. That was just a notification. Never mind. I thought the
Don't
Discord
scare
notification.
me! I've got basically the map of the area I'm in up right now, so I'm not looking at OBS, and you worried me.
Yeah. Okay. No, never mind. Yeah. So, what do you think is worse? That they were aware of the dangers and still did it, or they went in completely ignorant of the dangers?
I think aware.
Do you think they were aware, or do you think they were completely ignorant of the dangers?
Unfortunately, I think they were aware. Well, I don't know. I think they were aware of the dangers, but were like, oh, that won't happen to me.
That's actually a very good point. That is how people tend to work.
Like 100%, they will have gone. Oh, yeah, I can afford this. This £250 or $250,000 thing. I won't get hurt on this. Not knowing that the universe loves to take statements like that and just prove them the fuck wrong. Especially the sea right now. The sea is being very vengeful, and I'm all there for it.
I just, like, welcome our eventual, squid overlords. Look, we don't know what's down there.
No, and I honestly, I have no desire to know. Shit,
All I'm saying is,
shit is scary
Cthulhu-
down there.
Cthulhu probably doesn't exist, but that doesn't mean there isn't a cousin of Cthulhu down there.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, octopi are very intelligent. They're also a very old species who have had God knows how long at the bottom of the depths to evolve.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is, there's a chance.
And I'm dead.
Okay, Mel.
Yes.
Question. Because this stream has been just me talking, and I know my role. I know that's my job.
Yeah.
I'm the person who can just keep talking no matter what happens, which I aspire to. But I do have a question for you.
Go on.
What is a character that the author and fan base alike seem to like a fair bit, but you just can't stand?
Dumbledore.
Okay, let's like that. That's kind of cheating because it's like
I know that is the basic bitch answer, but that is easily my first thought. Dumbledore. I fucking hate that man.
he is kind of a dick.
He is a fucking asshole. Shit. And nobody can convince me otherwise. He is a complete asshole that manipulates Harry the entire time.
You know, if you think about it, Harry Potter as a character doesn't have a lot of agency.
No, he
Does he?
doesn't. He doesn't.
I'm pretty sure, like, this is gonna sound stupid, but I'm pretty sure Ron has more agency than Harry. Which is just...
Sad.
yeah. Honestly, the optimal, ship for that series was Harry-Ron. But, of course, that's not going to happen. But yeah, no. Okay, Dumbledore, like, if you have to give a slightly less basic bitch answer than Dumbledore. It can still be mainstream, but, like, Dumbledore is, I think, too mainstream.
Yeah. Fuck's sake. You might like this answer. Maybe Bakugo.
Ha! You know, that is probably... Bakugo is honestly the Dumbledore of modern shonen.
Because I don't know. I obviously don't hate him as much as you do. I mean, I think that would be hard for most people to do.
Literally, only one who hates Bakugo more than I do is Gen.
No, I think you hate him more than Gen does.
Really?
From the standpoint of you want him to suffer more than Gen does.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair, yeah. No, I think I totally get where you're coming from, because Bakugo is kind of like... Even if I put aside my hate boner, which is difficult, but I'll do it for you, he's definitely one of those characters that has a disproportionately large fan base. despite the fact that he's not sympathetic.
I mean, the other one from My Hero would be Toga. Like,
Look,
I really don't like her, and I don't understand why people do.
you understand why people like her.
No, I don't understand the fascination with yanderes. I really don't. I don't get what people like about them.
From a strictly, I think, from a strictly, like, outside looking in point of view, I think the appeal of yanderes is the idea of... The thing that people are attracted to is the idea of someone who is wholeheartedly and entirely devoted to you and you alone.
I guess, but that
They
can
tend
happen
to-
without
that-
them being fucking crazy.
No, but like the craziness makes it hotter. Is the other thing.
Does it?
It's the, well,
Oh,
it's the
thank
same principle of why do people like bad boys, right? People tend to like what's bad for them. For some reason.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think part of it is just because contrarianism is rooted in our genetic code.
I mean, I get that. I like to be contrarian sometimes.
Yeah, so I think that's just what it is. It's just that unique combination of total devotion and the whole bad boy principle. It's like an extension of the forbidden fruit principle, right?
I guess. There are very few yanderes that I will look at and go, yeah, they're a good character, and I like them. Like... And Toga is definitely not one of them.
No, Toga's like... So, here's the thing. Toga's a murderous yandere. I have a certain amount of, like, tolerance for yanderes, but, like, once it gets into the murderous or cannibalistic or torture side of things, that's where I bow out.
Yeah.
And, yeah, Toga is definitely... I get why people are into her, but I definitely do not share the opinion. But yeah,
I'm trying to think of other fandoms.
but yeah, just back
Sukuna, Jujutsu Kaisen. I guess what I'm saying is I'm not going to, like, I'm not one of those people who just likes a character because they're hot. And that instantly, like, excuses all of their sins.
Okay, here's what what's even more egregious about Sukuna. Is, like, we've not actually seen Sukuna. We've seen him possess Yuji and Fushiguro.
Yeah.
And those two are hot, but that has nothing to do with Sukuna. And that's my issue with it. It's not even that Sukuna is hot, it's that the people he's possessing are hot. Which doesn't count in my opinion, but
Yeah.
apparently people are just like, eh. Though I do wonder how much of that is like, there might be some double standards at play there.
I'm not
Occasionally.
dying here to this thing. Okay.
Cause like... I feel like even when you're not... Because there was a meme posted about this in our meme channel a while ago. But even if you're not into women, why do I feel like people tend to be more inclined towards being sympathetic towards villainous women than villainous men when they're hot in equal proportions? Well, actually, I think I have an idea of that.
So, your question is, like, why are... Okay, I was sort of not fully concentrating. Can you repeat what you said?
Okay, I will repeat the question, and I
Yeah.
also have a potential answer, but I'd like to hear your thoughts first. Villains who are hot guys versus villains who are hot ladies.
Yeah.
Even if you're not necessarily attracted to one over the other, people tend to be more sympathetic towards villains who are hot ladies.
Yes.
What do you think is the reason for that?
I mean, obviously, our generation is just in general somewhat biased towards women, in that we sort of all believe that men suck. Rightfully so, because men suck a lot of the time, but okay.
Yeah, and no, you've exactly what I'm thinking is that one is punching up, the other is punching down.
Yeah.
Because women have to just put up with a lot more shit in society. Right? So it's easier to sympathize with women because you're like, well, they've probably been through some stuff. Granted, as we've discussed in our entire Cradle podcast about Malice, it's not an excuse. You can understand and you can empathize, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's an excuse for, you know, doing war crimes. Which, you know...
Yeah.
People love excusing war crimes when they're committed by hot people.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, well, while you've already, brought up your, some of your, picks for that, people who are sympathetic but not, you don't like them, or people who you don't like nearly as much as the author and fan base do.
Yeah.
In my case, and this is also a bit of a cheat answer, but it's fine because you also gave a cheat answer for your first one.
Go for it.
Like half the cast of Steven Universe?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I've not watched Steven Universe.
Oh, okay, never mind. This is the argument that I'd have to have with Jack and Gen then.
Yeah. I know enough about it to a certain extent to know what you're talking about. But, like, I don't know sort of specifics for stuff. Because, honestly, the most I've really watched of Steven Universe is, that, Spinal song. Spinel.
I think it's Spinal, yes.
Because, like, that is really cool, and she wields a scythe, and, you know, I get a boner for scythe wielders.
I mean...
Not a literal
right,
boner,
but you shouldn't say it.
you know... Shit.
No, you're right, but you shouldn't say it. That's because, like, look, I hate that for a long time we had to hide our scythe boners, as it were. Because, like, scythes actually did go through that classic cycle where in, like, the 80s and 90s, people were like, scythes are awesome. And then in the, like, 2000s and the 10s, people
actually,
were like...
they're not very good weapons. They're really, they're really impractical.
And now we're kind of having that renaissance again of where... Yeah, no, they're horrifically impractical, but they're, like, cool as shit, so we still like them. Right?
I think the rule of cool has sort of gotten a renaissance.
Yes, there has been a bit of a renaissance of Rule of Cool, and I think I'm really like I hated living through the era of well, actually,
Yeah.
it's
Fuck.
yeah, I hated living through that era where I had to hide my love of scythes and look, like black wings and the Sephiroth aesthetic, really,
Yeah.
right? Like there was a big backlash against the Sephiroth. Biscuit, no, do not. She keeps trying to eat things in the kitchen that will kill her if she eats them.
Alright, I won't encourage that. Biscuit, if you gotta eat anything, eat his pillow.
But yeah, I'm glad we have come around to scythes and
Yeah.
look. I am not someone who advocates for the edgelord aesthetic. But there are elements of the edgelord aesthetic that are just cool, and I like them.
Yeah.
Scythes are one of them. I kind of like the long coat. Like the black long coat.
Yeah.
I kind of like that. That's a good look. But yeah.
Oh,
so
that reminds me. So you talked about characters that the fandom and the creator obviously loves. One of my favorite things is the character that the creator loves dunking on.
that is always fun. Yes.
Like not in the story, obviously. Like they write them properly in the story.
Yes,
But whenever they do
Yes.
interviews, they just fucking dunk on them every single minute that they can. So obviously
Yes, I could be
Gojo
a
and
fan of
Akatami is an example
Yes.
of that. But the other
Yeah.
big example of that I fucking adore is Tachikawa in World Trigger. Because he is like legitimately one of the strongest characters on the hero side, but the author just fucking dunks on how fucking stupid he is every time he gets asked something.
Hang on, I think I know who this is, but I'm looking him up on the wiki. Is it Windsword Guy?
No, it's rival of Windsword Guy.
Huh. I think I dropped the series. I dropped the series during the tournament arc, so I think this is before my time. So I don't actually know what he does.
So, alright, I'm just gonna pause because A, I'm lost, and B, I wanna, okay, well, what I'll do, because it's on my other window, so I'll just do that quickly. And then I'll bring it over here so that I can, where is it? Wrong character right now. I mean, what's good is that the World Trigger wiki is actually, or there is a World Trigger wiki that's not run by fandom, which is, the scum of the earth. So I've actually got a good World Trigger wiki. But, trivia. Tachikawa read the word danger as danga. He once thought a computer was broken when it was just unplugged. And he only ate the dried fruit on a fruit granola bar. That's...
The first two are just solid himbo energy. The third one is just like, what's wrong with you?
And just give me 1 second, because there are even more. There is even fucking more, and I love every single one of them. So Tachikawa called a character called Kumagai Kuma, but what relationship do they have? The relationship of a university student who read the kanji for Kumagai wrong 6 times in a row, and a broad-minded female high schooler who tolerates that. Tachikawa called Suzunari first Betsuyaku Taichi. Could this be because he can't read the kanji Betsuyaku? It's not that I can't read it, I'm just not sure is how it is. Why did Tachikawa grow a beard? Because I was told having a beard makes you look smart because of a dumb reason like that. What ploy did
Yeah.
Tachikawa use to get into university? He used the cunning ploy of Border's recommendation to just barely get into Mikado City Municipal University, which is affiliated with Border. His parents were super happy. He is a fucking idiot, and it's so wonderful.
Yeah. Honestly, that seems like an even more hilarious relationship than between Akutami and Gojo. Because, like, as much as Akutami dunks on Gojo, he at least acknowledges that Gojo is good at basically everything.
Yeah.
Also, have you read the latest Jujutsu Kaisen chapter?
I believe so. Is it the
It is the latest one on Manga Plus, yes.
Okay,
I don't
good.
read the scans.
Okay.
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure. Yes.
The only one I read the scans for is One Piece because I refuse to.
Refuse to do the Viz of Zolo. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna blame you for that. Okay.
Yeah, no. I read the official release for everything else, and yeah, the official release for JJK is like, I don't know how I feel about Gojo versus Sukuna. Just in general.
Yeah.
Well, let me hear your thoughts on it first.
I've been enjoying it. I think it's one of those where I would prefer to sort of binge the whole fight.
Yeah, that's definitely something that seems
Because obviously,
relevant.
just reading it week to week, especially with Akutami, understandably, taking breaks. I'm never going to blame a manga author for taking breaks. But it can make, fights a little bit disjointed.
Yeah, it's like when we finally get to this fight in like season 9 of the anime, it's gonna be like pure dopamine injected into the veins.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think that's one of the problems I've been running into. Do you think that occasionally, like, authors nowadays are sort of writing or like drawing their fights with the context of how they'll look in motion more so than how they look in because like to give an example of this, I think Akutami does in fact draw the fights more how they will be in motion, and so they translate well to anime, whereas I think Oda still does draw the fights in like stills and manga form. Right? Like, you know what I'm talking about, right? When you look at the difference in the fight scenes?
Yes. I don't necessarily think one is better than the other.
Me too, but I do think, like, they have their own strengths and weaknesses. Like, the Akutami style definitely means it looks a lot cleaner when it's in the anime, but the Oda style means that before you get to the anime, you are able to, like, feels a lot more
to be
punchy.
fair, Oda's sort of got for a long time, Oda had the anime isn't amazing.
That's a fair point.
Obviously,
No,
it's fucking kicked off in Wano, but up until that point, it was hit or miss, let's say.
To give a more modern example, I think MHA follows that style. MHA, like, obviously Horikoshi is a pretty big Oda fan.
Yeah.
And I do think MHA follows that style where the fights consist of a lot more, like, single impact frames, right? Like, the fight, he draws the beginning, middle, and end, whereas with Akutami, it's more drawing like almost like a flip book sort of scenario, right? Where he draws like the character in motion.
Yeah.
Like, basically, it's a frame rate thing, right?
Mm.
Some authors draw, like, 1 to 3 frames per action, and other authors draw, like, 12 frames per action. And it's a very interesting contrast, because I think what that means is that obviously the ones with more frames tend to be more fluid,
Mm.
whereas the ones with less frames tend to have more, like, you feel the impacts much more.
Yeah. I think... Oh, Jesus Christ, okay. I think there's may also be an element of, Akutami has been sort of very vocal about not wanting to overstay his welcome, basically.
So he just wants to go as, he wants to keep the pacing as tight as possible.
Yeah. Especially considering I'm willing to bet on his, first drafts, the Culling game arc and all those fights that happened did not take as long in his plans as they did in actuality, which is something that happens to manga authors a lot.
Yeah. I think that
I vividly remember Horikoshi basically saying that that was a piece of advice that I think Kishimoto had given him during, I think, the sports festival. Like, you will plan for your arc to be so and so chapters length, double it.
That might be the only good piece of advice Kishimoto has ever given someone.
And, he's absolutely right. I think to a certain extent we as authors can attest to that.
Yes, no, absolutely. You can never... it's good to plan.
Oh, no, absolutely. And I, honestly, at this stage, I do actually advocate for it. At the very least, a basic outline. Because...
Yeah.
I mean,
however, you also have to be aware that it's never going to go to plan.
No. I mean, here's the thing. During my Masters, I had to do, 15,000 words of my, novel. And I'm just going to stop here while I tell the story, because this game does actually need an element of concentration. And I did actually, plan some of these chapters out. But I had a chapter, or I had an outline for chapter 2, and then I had an outline for chapter 3. There was actually ended up being quite a lot of stuff. And as I wrote it, I obviously wrote the stuff in the outline, but then I also, added scenes in where I was like, okay, yeah, this is, I'm on a roll here, and I feel really happy about, what the characters are talking about and what voice, how I'm portraying their voice, sort of thing. And it got to, and I was worried at that point that I would get to 15,000 words and I would be at sort of the first major or the second major point of the novel. I was and I'd be like, oh god, I'm not gonna reach sort of my word goal for the novel as a whole. And I ended up hitting my 15,000 word mark before I even got to this second major point. Because I had this outline that ended up just sort of ballooning. The stuff that I was actually writing, went on for longer than I expected, and, oh Jesus.
Yeah, I obviously am a much less consistent writer, but I have also found that I will have, a single sequence that in my head is, a short exchange of, a few lines of dialogue, or, a paragraph, and it kind of blows up to an entire chapter.
Yeah.
So yeah, I totally understand that, and that's definitely something you have to be wary of as a writer. So yeah, it's definitely one of those things that you kind of need to keep in the back of your mind at all and any given time.
And to be fair, I think this is Akatami, recognizing that, going, look, if I'm not careful, this is gonna go forever. Like, I know I could write these two fighting for, like, 24 chapters, and it would be realistic to their power set sort of thing. Because they are basically, number 1 and 2 on the power scale in Jujutsu Kaisen.
And this is the fight to determine which one is which.
Yes.
So yeah, it's even beyond that, I think it's really the first and only time we're seeing Gojo sort of fight an equal, kind of. But at the same time,
I mean, I think the only other time you could really say is Toji. And even that, there was an element of basically Gojo was always going to bring out as soon as Gojo realized that Toji knew about his other limitless moves. He was just waiting for the opportunity to bring out Holo Purple so it would hit. Drawing him. Well,
no, the entire thing versus Toji is that he hadn't figured out Red yet, so he couldn't do Holo Purple.
Well, no. I mean, in the second fight, in the one where Toji died.
Wait, did that? Oh, right, because he figured out reverse curse technique after he got stabbed in the neck. Which
that's still one of my favorite scenes. I'm so looking forward to the anime getting to that. Like Gojo coming back and is just like fucking insane from having survived death. Is on like adrenaline high from it, and Toji's like, what the fuck? I heard that you were weird, but this is sort of taking it to a new level.
No, so here's the thing. That fight was entirely due to Toji's... Like, Toji died to his own cockiness.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. And
because
he even says it. He even says it.
Did he?
I think words to that effect, he said that, in other fights he would have just walked away, but he wanted to test himself, and he wouldn't have gotten in that sort of fight without thinking he could win.
Well, no, the reason I'm saying it was out of cockiness is, like, he should know that you have to destroy a curse sorcerer's brain to prevent them from using reverse curse technique. He should know that. That's common knowledge that, like, you gotta aim for that. Again, it's a very Thanos moment. He should have gone for the head. Right?
Yeah.
If Toji actually just, like, even, like, if he'd gone for a decapitation instead of a stab, which he could have, that also would have worked.
Yeah.
Right? That would have killed him. Gojo wouldn't have been able to come back from that, but it's the fact that he went for the throat stab that really got him.
Yeah.
But no, okay. The reason, well, part of the reason I don't like Gojo versus Sukuna is I don't like his redesign.
Oh.
I don't like, in particular, I'm not as much of a fan of him being jacked, but also I don't like that he has the giant bug eyes now. His eyes aren't pretty anymore. No, Gojo.
Oh, Gojo.
Yeah, because Gojo's always had, like, his thing has always been pretty eyes, but ever since coming back, his eyes are like he does the same. Like Akutami is giving them the same treatment as a lot of the other characters, and making just like zooming in on like the fisheye lens effect on the top of the head. Not a fan of that.
That doesn't really ring a bell. I'd have to like go and check. But
You know when sometimes he emphasizes when the characters are leaning forward or doing a thing, their eyes grow to take like half their entire face. I'll show you an exact panel after the stream.
Yeah.
But like I'll find the specific panel afterwards. But no, I like. Oh, but back to the whole characters I dislike that the fandom and author love. Which again, this is something I've talked about. Codex Alera's Amara.
yes.
And Bernard, really.
The issue is they're such a package deal. They don't really get any like time away from each other after the first book until the final book. And the very final part of the final book.
Like, I really don't like that their first major interaction is Bernard giving her a magical roofie.
Yeah.
And that kind of sets the tone for their relationship, but also for them as characters. And it's just like, But yes, I'm glad you can finally understand where my distaste for that entire dynamic comes from after your recent reread.
Well, re-listen.
Well, it's the same thing.
Fuck you for moving backwards. Oh. He went down easier than I thought he was gonna.
Oh my.
I mean, that looked like a boss thing, and I was expecting to have to, like... Oh, fuck you. Like, go through a couple more phases, but then he just went down to 2 quick hits. Oh my.
Yes, but... Yeah, I feel like... These characters exist everywhere, and I'm sure there's, like, dozens of us who dislike the characters. But, like, why do you think this happens?
What,
Where there's a character who, if you, like, critically analyze them, are not really that great on a number of levels, but the author and fandom tend to love them.
I mean... Oh. What have I got myself into? I mean, it depends on the character, because there will be some characters that, you know, the author likes them because it's fun to write, you know, it can be fun to write jackasses, and, you know, they may actually think, look, this character is not supposed to be liked. But then, obviously, you know, fandoms love to take characters like that and fucking actually make them, you know, try and say, oh no, they're actually good inside, don't worry about it. Like, to a certain extent, Bakugo is an example of that. Because, like, Horikoshi for a long time was like, no, Bakugo's been a dick. Like, he does actually need, like, some redemption here. But, like, the fandom just didn't, like, critically look at him in that way. We're too busy, like, oh, he's so cool, he's got such a cool power, and all that bullshit, yeah.
Yeah, I think
I don't need to
part of it
do
also
this.
comes down to, like, for a lot of people, there is an element of power fantasy to just, like, being able to be a dick and still be showered in
Uh-oh.
praises.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. This is bad. This is bad. This is very bad. I don't like this. I don't like that. Sorry. I got stuck between two of those knights while I'm on, like, 2 health.
Oh
Oh, God.
my.
Wonderful.
Yeah, like, for example, another one I can think of off the top of my head. I understand why people like him, but I'm a fan of Louis from Beastars. He's just like, eh. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I get the appeal.
Mm.
That's just not what I'm into.
No, and that's fair. I mean, that's the thing. There is a distinct separation for me between, like, characters where I'm like, why the fuck does anybody like this character? And characters of, like, okay, I don't like this character, but I can understand why other people do. And as long as they're not dicks about it, I'm just gonna let them play it out. So, I mean, going back to 2 of my previous examples, Bakugo, to a certain extent, is the former of, like, look, I don't like this character. He has grown, at least now, somewhat. So, as long as they aren't, you know, as long as they're not being, like, that one fanfic that I remember seeing a few months ago now, that was like, oh, class 1A finds out about Bakugo's bullying and shuns him, and they're in the wrong for that. Bakugo is the victim here, and was just like, what the fuck? You're not pulling that on me. Like, no, I'm not having that, but, you know, they want to enjoy their Blasty Boy, then fine, go ahead. As long as you don't ship him with the Zuku. Because, yeah, no. Not having that shit. Can you follow me? No. This is only mandatory the first time, so yeah, fuck you. I'm just gonna ignore you. Hello?
Yes.
Okay, good. You weren't talking and I got worried.
No. No, I am here.
I get worried when people stop talking, because generally it means that my internet has died, and that's bad.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
So yeah, so Bakugo is in the camp of, look, as long as you know, aren't a dick about it, then fine, do what you want. Toga is the other one of, I don't like this character, and I don't understand why anyone likes her, and it weirds me out that they do. There are fanfics that I have dropped because, like, they've gone the, oh, we're gonna redeem Toga route.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. Toga is very much a character who has sort of failed by the system.
I can understand that, but, like, I suppose there's a difference between, or there's so there's a point, I think, where you can go, okay, Toga is redeemable. Of,
yeah,
like, sort of, if like, the characters sort of catch her early enough. Yes, I can see her being sort of, you know, redeemed in that sense. Like, I was the same way with Malfoy when I read Harry Potter fanfic. Like, I was like, there is a definite point where I can see him sort of, you know, like, being able to be redeemed. And if you try and redeem him after that point, it's stupid and bullshit, and I don't like it. I think that cutoff point was like 3rd or 4th year, I want to say.
I think probably it
Oh, I'm not
would
gonna be able to
be
know
a,
this.
for in the case of Malfoy, and I can't believe we're even talking about Harry Potter in this way.
I know.
But I believe it was once Snakeface Jones came back. I believe that was the cutoff point.
Yeah. Oops. Oh boy, I'm glad that stopped where it did. Ooh. Okay, this has been a pretty fun fight so far. Yeah, I think that was the point. Like, I think it also depends, sort of, like, if it's generally, like, I do quite like to, or I did like to read. It's been hard for me to really get into these fics again. You know, shit. But like, yeah, I shouldn't have started talking. I should have just concentrated. So yeah, so like the fics that I would like were, you know, ones that would go, you know, all 7 years basically, because I like long fiction, especially if it's, you know, characters portrayed in ways I like. I will go, you know, yeah, I want to read more of these characters written like this sort of thing. So yeah, in that case, it would very much depend on, like, how bad Malfoy had been throughout those first, you know, 2 or 3 years. If he'd been, like, really fucking awful even up until, like, 3rd year, yeah, no, I'm gonna say no redemption, sir. No redemption.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I don't think redemption arcs are inherently a bad thing, but I do think there is a line after which I lose the ability to tolerate the character.
Oh no, absolutely, absolutely. And to be brutally honest, you know, I wouldn't disagree with the idea that Bakugo crossed that line. Like,
I wasn't even going from that direction, but yes, I can definitely see that being the case, yeah.
because, like, yeah, he absolutely does a shitty thing. Well, a lot of shitty stuff. You know, he bullies Suzuku for, what is it, 10 years?
Yep.
At most 10 years, I would say. Assuming it started immediately at, you know, 4 years old. It's possible.
Which it did, yeah.
No, I don't think there's any confirmation of that, because, like, late bloomers definitely do seem to be a thing, so it's distinctly possible that, like, Izuku didn't get the full, like, quirkless designation until he was, like...
Well, no, but, like...
5 or 6.
One of the first, Okay, well, they were young enough that it didn't really matter, because one of the first interactions we saw, and the point in which because they were like when Bakugo fell into that river or creek or stream or whatever, right?
Yeah.
I feel like that was really the point in which it.
Well, I think that was after Zuko got his quirkless. I don't want to call it a diagnosis, but like, you know what I mean.
I think actually diagnosis, in the context of it being considered a disability, diagnosis is the correct term for, at least for as far as I know, and as a disabled person myself, I'm pretty sure diagnosis is just what you call it. Yeah.
Fuck you.
So in the context of a disability, yes, it would be that.
I mean, I'm just not sure if I like, you know, I don't know. Because I think, again, as I've said many times before, I've read fan fictions where Izuku, I think, takes issue with it being called a diagnosis because it, like, implies that there's something wrong with him.
Well, the thing is, like, that's one of those things that I think is a conversation that you can have in the real world as well. And I do think, in my case, like, I've made no bones about the fact that I am autistic and have various health issues along those lines. And I am fine with calling it a diagnosis because, to me, a diagnosis is not inherently a good or a bad thing, right? Like, it is a diagnostic operation, right? It's like, to me, diagnosis implies information. But I think to a lot of people, diagnosis implies illness, and illness isn't inherently, like, they take illness as an inherently negative connotation. It's a nuanced issue.
Yeah.
I'll give you that. But I think it definitely varies from person to person. Like, I'm sure there are people who would not call autism a diagnosis. I do as an autistic person, but I'm sure there are autistic people who don't.
Yeah.
So I think that's something you have to keep in mind whenever you're talking about disabilities, fictional or otherwise, is like even the term disability, right?
Yeah.
That is something, as someone who can be classified as that, I do not mind the term disability because, to me, I want to sort of, I mean, to a certain extent, it's also down to reclaiming, right? Like, reclaiming the word to a certain extent. But to me, it is a neutral piece of information rather than an actual. It's information and not a judgment.
Yeah.
That's how I see it. But I can see why it's different for other people. Sorry, that's a bit of a tangent, but yes, I think.
But yeah,
the reason I think. Yeah, go ahead.
But yeah, I think, you know, I think that, actually was it? I don't know. It's been a while since I've actually read it, and whenever it comes up in fanfiction, I just sort of skim it, because I'm like, oh yeah, I know this bit. Shit. Ugh. Okay. Sorry, I'm having to legit concentrate.
No, take your time. I will.
Beat the butt, beat the butt. Okay, I only get one hit.
Oh my. I'm having to do it myself because I don't have access to the...
Are you on mobile?
Yeah.
No, no! Okay. This is very hard without a dodge.
Yeah, that definitely would do it.
No! Uh... Anyway, what were we saying?
Something. The line after which a redemption arc is no longer possible.
Yeah. No, I mean, that line obviously absolutely exists.
And it is a very subjective one, and it's a very contextual one as well. For example, in Baku, ironically enough, I would like, from a subjective level, I would love to say that Bakugo is past that point. But on an objective level, enough of it happened when he was a stupid child who didn't know any better that I can see why it's possible. I do think Horikoshi took the coward's way out. He had Bakugo apologize, but he didn't actually have any of his crimes come to light.
Yeah.
And I think that is like... But that's not the character's fault, that's Horikoshi's fault at that point. And I think it happened... basically, he missed the optimal timing for it to happen as well.
Yeah.
Because it really needed to happen before the final arc. But yeah, enough of it happened when he was like a stupid child that I can definitely see a world in which a redemption arc is viable.
Yeah.
I am much less of a fan of the redemption arcs for like adult villains.
Yeah.
Though again, there are adult villains who just don't cross, if they don't cross certain lines, are much more forgivable. Now, here's the worst part, though.
Yeah.
Is there definitely are scenarios where a character is forgiven without a redemption arc, even though they really don't deserve it.
Oh, hi, Sasuke. Oh,
Look,
hi,
I wasn't gonna name
Orochimaru.
him. Look, Orochimaru is even more egregious than Sasuke, because Sasuke only had the intent to commit war crimes. I don't think he ever actually did commit war crimes. And yet, arguably, Orochimaru gets a happier ending than he did.
Yeah.
Right? Because, like, Sasuke at least has to deal with people giving him crap for being a deadbeat dad. Whereas, in Orochimaru's case, he's just living his best life. And it's just, like, the fact that of the three, Jiraiya, Sanada, and Orochimaru, he had the best ending.
Yeah.
He
Oh
had the
man,
only...
that is awful.
Right? It just makes me feel dirty for having read that series. That said, we have been at this for over 2 hours. Or
Oh, have we?
about
Shit.
2.
Okay.
Yes, it's 9. Yeah, time does fly, right?
Okay, I will have this attempt. Which may not last very much longer. Nope, didn't last that much longer.
Welcome to Souls, my dude.
Again, this is not a game that certainly not in boss battles. I can't do two things at once very well.
It's fine. But yeah, thank you everyone for joining us as we just rant about miscellaneous things while Mill plays gay bug game. Sadly, we didn't actually meet any of the gay bugs in our playthrough, but I'm pretty sure our protagonist is, well, Our protagonist is difficult to quantify because they're a child. I'm pretty sure.
Well, they're a gender. Like I don't think they actually have a gender. I think is the point.
Yeah, so that's fine then. Yeah. Uh.
Yeah, genderless.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So that's one you don't see very often. But
Yeah.
yes, thank you everyone for joining us.
Mm-hmm. Hopefully you've enjoyed. In terms of future stuff, I mean, at this point, it really does depend on your availability, Fuzzy.
I'll try and plan accordingly.
Yeah, because it's basically a case of Fuzzy. If you're here, we'll play Hollow Knight. If you're not, I'll play. I will play. I refuse to say the name when I can just use a soundboard.
No, that's the correct response.
So yeah, basically that's going to be the state of affairs until Jack gets back. So yeah, it is a case of, you know, just tuning in to find out what exactly it is we're going to be doing. And you can do that if you follow us here on Twitch or on Twitter at Storytime_net. Otherwise, hopefully we will see you next time on Thursday. Actually, Thursday might do Tales of Arise. We'll see what Gen thinks.
I'll leave that up to Gen. But yeah, thank you everyone.
You know,
Bye-bye.
yeah, okay. So yeah, thank you everybody for watching, and hopefully we'll see you next time. Good night.
Bye-bye.